right. Hello again, everyone. This is Calvin Smith with the, I guess, 50th or so episode of the Social Z Franchise Happy Hour. We're so excited to have Mr. Matthew McReynolds joining us from the Dallas-Fort Worth area to talk with us today. Matthew, how are you?
I'm doing great. Calvin, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be a part of the show.
Yeah, man, we're excited to hear your story and hear about your journey as an entrepreneur and learn from you as a multi-unit franchise owner and also hear about the personal brand that you're developing as well. But to kick us off, Matthew, what we will ask everyone to do is take 60 to 120 seconds and just introduce who you are, where you're at, and anything cool that you feel is relevant to frame the conversation.
Absolutely. So my name is Matthew McReynolds. I born and raised Pflugerville, Texas, just north of Austin, capital city. I went to Texas State my freshman year of college, tried to walk onto the football team, didn't make it, transferred to Wheaton College, which is just outside of Chicago. Spent 4 years up there, played football, ran track, met my now wife. We have three beautiful babies, a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a baby girl. So the oldest two are boys. We've got a baby girl who's 5 months old now. We currently live in Murphy, Texas, which, yes, is in DFW, the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, just outside of Plano. And we've been rocking it. We've been rocking this business, entrepreneurship, franchise thing for 7 years now.
Awesome.
I never had a quote unquote real job. I've always been a hustler. I've always been somebody who, in any organization, wore a lot of hats. And coming out of college, I worked in the inner city in the nonprofit sector, and I got an opportunity to partner with my dad, and when we started our first brand, and man, we've been rocking ever since.
That, that's awesome, Matthew. Thanks for sharing that. So before we dive into kind of your journey of after school, talk to us a little bit about your path. Growing up, you mentioned you started your business with your dad. Early on, were you thinking you were going to be an entrepreneur? Like, talk through us about your journey leading up to college and was there early signs of being an entrepreneur, or were you like, hey, I'm going to go play in the NFL? Like, what was the dream early on?
Yeah, the NFL dream was definitely there. It
Sure.
definitely was. I just, it took me a long time to realize that the skill set wasn't quite there with injuries, and it takes a special breed of person to make it that far and just to excel in that craft.
Sure.
Made it as far as I could, had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
It's interesting being, I think a lot of athletes and a lot of young people, especially football players, and I'm sure it translates to other sports, they don't always think about life outside of that sport until it's over, and they
Sure.
have an identity crisis of sorts when what they love doing and their passion is cut off. I definitely experienced that myself. I just remember as a kid, I could not never conceptualize what life would be like not being in school. And
Yeah.
I look back and I wish I had a better vision for what my 20s and 30s and 40s was going to be. But I didn't have it. I didn't have the vision. I know some people do, and I'm jealous of those folks.
Sure.
There were definitely signs, though, man. There were signs. I remember being a little kid. Some of this I remember. Some are stories from my parents. Um, even back in the day, those fruit roll-up wrappers used to have little promo codes on it. I would trade those for other kids' toys.
Yeah.
I would take, I think my first product launch, I would take brown paper bags, fill them up with gravel, sand, and some rocks, and duct tape them, and I would sell them as Nerf footballs for $5. I'd take about six of them to school, and
That's
you
some
could
great
you could
margin there.
toss
Yeah.
yeah, you
Yeah.
could toss those
Yeah.
things, man. I know I got the all the inventory was just from, I didn't have to pay for the brown paper bags. I just snuck them from the kitchen, and all the
Yeah.
leaves and stuff was from the backyard. You
Yeah.
could get about one or two tosses out of that thing, but as soon as it hit the ground, it would bust, and parents would be upset. Like, "What did you do with your lunch money?" I was, "Hey,
Sure.
no refunds, no
Yeah.
refunds." That was
That's
probably around 8 or 9.
that's awesome. That's
And I
awesome.
got older. I always had a job. I always had a hustle. I always had, um, like I said, I always wore multiple hats. I always had multiple sources of income, working part time, stacking that on top of class and sports.
Sure.
Um, when I graduated and I started working in the nonprofit sector, I found myself consistently being the Swiss Army knife, and
Hmm.
somebody that could just, when I was at the school, my first role was assistant athletic director, and I would do assistant athletic director things, and I would also coach. But during the day, I would substitute teach. I would work in the cafeteria. I would the janitor. I was everywhere.
Sure.
Those kids could not escape me,
Yeah.
and it was those things that translated when I did move into the entrepreneurial business owner role. Those things helped out significantly, especially if, and I'm sure you and your audience is familiar with the E-Myth, and you get
Hmm.
that entrepreneurial seizure and you start out as a technician before you become a manager and entrepreneur. I was very well
Sure.
suited for that first phase, um,
Sure.
without a doubt.
Yeah. Matthew, before we dive into more of that, going back to your years at university, you mentioned, you kind of had a plan and a dream to play there in Texas, and that didn't work out the way you planned, and you ended up going up to Illinois at Wheaton. But as entrepreneurs, resiliency and being flexible and adaptable is a big part of it. What did you learn from that experience? And how did that impact you as a young adult mentally to look for other opportunities and to keep
Wow.
moving forward instead of stepping back?
Wow. That's a great question. Failure is something that everybody experiences. And it's one of those things that, I mean, it literally will make or break you as a
Hmm.
person. And if you don't have the dexterity or the bandwidth to push through, and to overcome and to find a way to pivot,
Hmm.
you're going to continue to fail, or you're going to become complacent and you're going to be okay with where you're at. Um, for me, I always, um, man, the Disney movie Aladdin just always resonated with me, man. Like,
Sure.
I didn't really come from a lot. My family
Hmm.
was, lower middle class. We were
Sure.
fine. I was never in, want. A lot of the individuals in the communities that I interact with now, um, man, there's just so much poverty and need out there. And I was never in that place, but there was always such a desire for more than
Sure.
than what we had and where we came from, and wanting to grow and to be a person of significance. And so every failure, and I'm not going to say that I wasn't set back and I didn't, especially as a kid, man, as 18, 19, 20 years old. Um, Gosh, I look back on those years and there's so many things that I would do different.
Sure.
Just the way that I responded to those failures. But I mean, I praise God that I was able to figure it out and pivot. And one of the reasons I even went to Wheaton, and if anybody's from Wheaton, is a small Division III school in the
Hmm.
suburbs of, just west of Chicago, and the locals, or the people who go there, they call it the. I don't know if this is even kind of embarrassed saying it like this now that I'm putting it out there. They call it the Harvard of Christian colleges. It's a very
Okay.
prestigious. The only way I got in was because of athletics. Like, there's a lot
Sure.
of smart people that go to Wheaton, and to come from Texas State, who is just a very cultural shift.
Hmm.
I grew up going to church and all that, and at the time, my faith just wasn't a part of my life, and I had actively turned away. Um,
Hmm.
but there was just a moment where I realized that if this is going to be important to me, I need to go all in, and I need to shift, at least to just prove to myself where I stand,
Yeah.
um, where I stand with God, where I stand with my faith, and that in and of itself put me in a place where, well, I have to make a move. And it took me to literally the exact opposite culture and one of the exact opposite types of schools that anybody could go to. And
Sure.
even that choice in and of itself set me up for such success.
Hmm.
Athletics and that background definitely played a part, pushing yourself to get better every day. My college coach, Mike Swider, always says, there's no such thing as stagnant. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. And if you're not
Yeah.
putting in the work every single day to get better, you're getting worse. And
Sure.
I really take that to heart. And so those moments in my youth have definitely translated into how I operate as a business owner, as a dad, as a husband, and
Hmm.
live my life as a leader.
Sure. Sure. So Matthew, share with us, so you went to Wheaton, obviously, found a new direction there and excelled there, and came back, and we're still working in athletics, things like that. You mentioned, you ended up partnering with your father and going into business. How did that transpire? What was the path to, hey, maybe you're pursuing a career in sports or something that you're probably passionate
Yeah.
about, to like, hey, I'm going to go start a business with my dad. How did all that come about?
No, it was really cool, man. So my dad worked at Apple Computer for 20 plus years,
Oh, wow.
corporate job, um, accounts receivable, worked his way up. When he started at Apple, he did not have a college degree. He was there for so long that Apple actually helped him go back to get his degree. And
That's
I was
awesome.
5 when he took that job. And I know from stories now that at the time, he had worked at the state, and my mom didn't want him to take the job at Apple because it was such a wavery company. The stock was
Sure.
maybe 25 cents a share.
Oh,
Steve
wow.
Jobs might
Yeah.
have just got fired, and like, are you sure
Hmm.
you want to take a job at that company that seems so wishy-washy? It
Yeah.
was a pretty good choice, obviously.
Absolutely.
He
Absolutely.
stayed there for I think 22, 23 years until it started to look like they were pushing him out. They were
Hmm.
new faces. It was very bureaucratic, and for him being there for so long, he needed to make a move. Now at the time, so I had moved from Chicago in 2014. My now wife and her family moved to the Dallas area. Her dad and mom lived in Minnesota. They moved to Dallas. My wife, she transferred from Wheaton College to Dallas Baptist University. And at the time we were dating and the relationship, I knew there was something there, and I couldn't let
Sure.
that go. So I left my job that currently I was working at the Chicago Hope Academy on the
Hmm.
west side of Chicago. That's when I was the athletic director. And I took a sales job in Dallas, making $200 a day, cold calls. I
Oh,
worked
wow.
there I
Yeah.
hated it, man. It was a
Yeah.
great culture. I loved the team, but the job,
Hmm.
I wasn't cut for it. But again, it was an opportunity where I went there and I failed consistently,
Oh, yeah.
but everything I learned about sales and getting rejected came from that experience. So
Sure.
I stayed there for about 6, 7, 8 months, left, went back to just hustle mode. I started tutoring for SAT, ACT. I started coaching track at a local high school. I got a job at a gym because I got my personal training certification.
Hmm.
And I started working for a company called Triumph Sports. And what we did at Triumph Sports was we did athletic camps for kids. We would do dodgeball, football, and we would partner with churches. And so it was a development, uh, babysitting, athletic, a training, a teaching, all wrapped up in one. And I loved it. This was right up my
Sure.
alley. I felt like
Sure.
I was suited for this. I got a job as the area director, and I'm 24 years old. I make it for about area director, and I was also one of his head coaches.
Okay.
I make it about 2 months, and he calls me to coffee. He said, "Hey, man, you're not really suited to be an area director." And he gave me all these reasons as to why I wasn't ready. But I'm going to keep you on as a head coach because you're one of the best that I have.
Sure.
At the time, now I was hurt. I was hurt
Yeah.
by that. But I loved the organization. I loved the opportunity. I had just gotten engaged, so I wasn't about to quit because I got demoted.
Sure.
So I just went, I'm going to be the best head coach ever. So I spent the whole summer into the fall working for this guy. And after a while, start realizing like, this is something that I want to do. I can do this on my own. And so I create my own concept, call it Hero Athletics, and I start pitching it to schools in the inner city. I
Hmm.
come across a school, Cornerstone Crossroads Academy, down in South Dallas. Christy Lichtenberg is the executive director down there, and she told me that we can't use your program, but we love you and we want to bring you on. So I come on as a life coach. Eventually, I'm teaching leadership classes to the
Oh,
students.
wow.
We have a work study program. We start a basketball team, and Cornerstone is a special place. It's a second chance school for people who they didn't make it their first go around in high school,
Sure.
whether they got arrested, kicked out, dropped out. This is so we had students from 16 to 38 years old at
Oh,
this
wow.
school. Um, I was there for about a year, and at right around the year mark, my dad decides that he's going to retire from Apple and he's looking into franchising. And
Hmm.
so he's looking for ones, and in the area, he still lived in the Austin area. We came across Mosquito Joe.
Yep.
He loved the concept because to him, there's always going to be mosquitoes in
Sure.
DFW.
Sure.
His first territory that he bought was actually in Waco, Texas. Then
Okay.
he bought two more he bought the Garland and the Rockwall territory, and
Hmm.
then rounded it out with Waxahachie, and gave me the opportunity to be involved in any capacity that I wanted. I said, well,
Hmm.
hey, man, I've always wanted to do my own thing. I kind of sold out and took the job when I was pitching to schools, but this is
Hmm.
an opportunity for me to come in and work with you at a high level with, a franchise is something that already has the blueprint. It's established. I don't know
Yep.
what the heck I'm doing. So let me come in and operate it. He still lived in Austin in 2016. My wife and I got married on March 12th. On March 13th, he flew us to Virginia Beach for corporate training. We were there for a week, came back, opened up in April, and
Hmm.
yeah, rocked it. We probably got about 30 customers that first couple months, and then realized that 60% of them were not technically in our territory. They were in a neighboring territory. And when that guy opened up, we lost
Oh, man.
18 out of our 30 customers and got shot down to 11 or 12. And we're heartbroken,
Sure.
devastated. What are we going to
Sure.
do? Um, but we kept grinding. In 2018, we acquired two more territories, the Plano and Frisco. And by that time, we built up our customer base to around 180, 200 recurring
Oh,
customers.
wow.
When we acquired those two territories, we went to 600 customers
Oh, my
overnight,
goodness. Wow.
quadrupled our business, um, got punched in the face a lot, paid a lot of idiot tax, is what my dad will
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Um, and we learned a lot, man. We learned how to grow fast. We learned how you shouldn't grow fast sometimes, and how you should take a step back. But it's
Sure.
been a great experience, and yeah, 2022. We've been rocking. We actually just closed on. We sold our original two territories, Garland and Rockwall. We just transitioned and sold those to somebody who lives out in that community that's going to kill it, do a great job out there, and successfully completed my first exit.
Yeah.
And so, pretty proud of that.
That's
Excited
awesome.
for what comes next.
Yeah, absolutely. So Matthew, obviously over 7 years now of doing that, you've learned a lot. Went from starting it, rode the roller coaster of success and failure, and then had an exit. And what is it that you feel like that you gained the most from that experience? And what is it that you were surprised that you learned? Obviously, you had a little bit of a career before that, but what were the things that you were good at? What are the things that you were bad at? And how have you grown personally and
Man,
professionally through that?
wow. Again, that's a good one. Um, you know, Back in 2015, when I was dabbling with, hero athletics and that concept and, doing my own thing, starting that from scratch, I had applied, took the GMAT, and I applied to go get my MBA. and I ended up not registering for classes because I got the job at Cornerstone.
Hmm.
And it's always something that, I need to go back and get that degree. But having my dad invest in me in the sense of, he took what his whole life's worth of savings and what
Sure.
he built, invested it in a business, and then put me in charge of it at 25 years old, not
Yep.
knowing anything about anything other
Sure.
than nobody's going to outwork me. Nobody's going to out people me and out customer service me. And I'm going to do my best. Um, and I think back on the person who I was then to the person 7 years later that I am now. Um, just my ability to walk into a room, walk onto a team, and I'm not the smartest, I'm not the most skilled, but you talk about Patrick Lencioni's ideal team player,
Yep.
and you talk about embodying that humble, hungry, smart, and fully making that my own. Um, I take a lot of pride in that. And whether I'm doing my own thing or if I'm, one day we exit and I join somebody else's team, I know
Sure.
that that's what I bring to the table. Something that I've definitely had to work on though consistently. This was an experience when I was, working in the inner city at these schools, being the younger guy. There's such a need in the low income communities for positive male role models and figures
Hmm.
that just can relate to you and can see you where you're at and just show you like, hey man, I love you. I'm here for you. Here's how, let's correct this. Let's work through this. I'm here to walk through life with you.
Sure.
I was always good at that part. The problem was being in a position of authority, and when you come in as a friend, it's
Yep.
hard to gain the authority on the back end. So
Hmm.
as a manager, you would have thought I would have learned that lesson as a coach, and I
Hmm.
did, but I had to relearn it. I think when I
Sure.
started, I was very cautious and afraid of hiring anybody that was older than me, just because I assumed that they wouldn't respect somebody who was in their 20s. Um, that's not necessarily the case anymore. I've got a lot of people on my team who are younger, who are older, who are all over.
Hmm.
I had to really develop my own leadership um, leadership strategy. Who am I as a person? What do I bring to the table?
Yep.
I need to not be afraid to confront you and call you out.
Sure.
Wanting people to like me and being nice to people is one of the worst things and one of the actually the meanest things that you can do. And so
Hmm.
now I've adopted, and my team has adopted a term, and we will aggressively kill you with kindness. With a
Hmm.
smile on my face, I will confront you until we get the issue solved. I don't
Yep.
need to be right. I don't need you to be right, and you don't need to be right. But we need to come together and get to a higher level of understanding whatever the issue is. And
That's
so
good.
my management style has definitely been affected. Also
Sure.
learning, and this one was tough, but learning the difference between delegating and abdicating responsibilities.
Hmm.
That was one when I had my first son. I had built up a team, and I've got people around that can do the things. Um,
Hmm.
so I took a step back. I'm going to work on the business, not in the business, and I
Yep.
thought that that's what I was doing. But then you turn around, and man, the culture is shot.
Hmm.
Quality is dropping at an exponential rate, and you turn around and day by day it looks like nothing's happening, but 6 months goes by and man, I'm in a completely different room now.
Yep.
I don't even know the people that are across from me, and they don't know or respect me or trust me is
Hmm.
probably a better word, because I haven't been there.
Sure.
And having to work my way back was much harder than it needed to be, but
Yeah.
you live and you learn and you get better.
Yeah. Man, Matthew, those are some great lessons as someone who's in their early 30s that, it's amazing you're learning that at your age and how valuable that'll be as you move forward and continue to do some awesome things. Um, I want to transition now. Tell us a little bit about Hero Home Services and what you're doing there and, what's the vision for that?
Yeah, man, Hero Home Services. It really started as a passion project. Obviously it's a spinoff, the Hero concept from Hero Athletics. We created an
Hmm.
LLC called Hero Unlimited, which is our umbrella.
Hmm.
Hero Home Services was in a response to our customers who wanted us. We've been servicing these homes in Mosquito Joe for years, and Mosquito
Sure.
Joe as a franchise has a very strict set of things that we can and cannot do, what services we can provide.
Yep.
So, for example, rodent control is not one of the services. It's basically outdoor pest control.
Yep.
Rodents and indoor pest was not a part of it. And so the concept of sending a Mosquito Joe tech to go in and do some of these other services for people, because they would ask, they trusted us, they liked us, they loved what we had to offer, highly frowned upon by the franchisor and the brand. And
Sure.
I don't know if we have time, but those are a lot of other lessons that I that I
Sure.
learned, um,
Sure.
probably the hard way. If I would have read the FDD a little bit closer, I could have avoided some hand slaps there.
Sure.
But so we created a separate LLC, DBA, Hero Home Services, a separate staff, a separate team to assist in, okay, we know these people, they need other services. Let's refer the business outside. So it started as indoor pest control. We got a separate team coming out. We don't do this in Mosquito Joe, but we can refer this out to Hero Home Services. Um, and then because Mosquito Joe is so seasonal, what are we going to do in the off season when it gets cold? In DFW, mosquito season will last from March to a couple weeks after Thanksgiving. So next week is
Sure.
Thanksgiving. Um, and we'll go for about 2 weeks after, and then we'll close for the off season. So conceptually, okay, we need a source of revenue during the off season. So we started
Yep.
Christmas lights.
Sure.
So it was indoor pest control and Christmas lights. And my dad, who, he's always been a handy guy. His dad was a teacher, but also a carpenter. And so my dad was always very handy. And after working in a desk for 20 something years, he wanted to get out there and be out. And um, they moved from Austin in 2018 after we acquired Plano Frisco territories from Mosquito Joe. So now he's a part day to day Mosquito Joe, but he wants to be the lead tech for Hero, doing a lot of handyman type stuff. So now we have a
Sure.
handyman concept.
Yeah.
In 2021, we acquired because we read a book called Buy Then Build,
Yeah.
and we
Sure.
loved this book.
Yep.
And it just changed our lives. And we both read it like 5 times and had it
Yep.
memorized. And no matter what, nothing could stop us. We were going to buy a business, integrate it into our systems, and we were going to grow an empire out of it. So
Yep.
September 2021, we acquired a lawn care company and integrated it into our services. Um, There's a big balance for anyone listening on, when you do that, um, adding a whole bunch of services without having a clearly defined culture and what you're about with core values, and not fully
Hmm.
understanding the profitability on each service that you currently operate. Needs to be things that you consider before you acquire a brand new business. And so
Sure.
we spent the last 12 months learning that process and kind of working our way backwards. And okay, these are the prime services that make us the most money. These are the things that don't make us money. So let's cut these off. And we're currently in the process of, within Hero, we have other services. We have some property management clients that we've picked
Hmm.
up that own multiple properties, and we really have about 3 or 4 concepts wrapped up within Hero Home Services. And so the goal for 2023 is to take each individual service, put it into its own little bubble, build systems out, and we really could have 3 or 4 concepts within that one business, what we
Sure.
currently have. So for me, the idea is, I learned business from being a franchisee. I love franchising. I love the opportunity that it provides. With Mosquito Joe, we have a management and leadership team that's in place. I've got lead techs. I've got operations people that have been able to remove me from the day to day. Now, what else can we add to the portfolio? Are there other brands that we can look at that we can do the same thing from the franchising side? Now, from the Hero Home Services side, what can we do there to potentially become a franchisor? What is attractive? Where can we add value? But also, something that I'm learning is, who do I need to partner with that can help
Mm-hmm.
me in the areas that I'm weak? Trying to do
Sure.
too many things myself has been a trend in my life from the jump.
Mm-hmm.
And just because I'm capable, I'm not highly skilled, but I am highly capable. And that can be a detriment. Your skills and the things that you consider yourself the best at can work and do a disservice to you if they're not managed and if you're not around the right people on the right team. And so now we're in a place of, okay, who can I partner with? Who can bring things to the table that I currently don't have myself, that I don't know? How can I outsource things to continue to add value to my customers, to my current team, and to the portfolio that we're building? The first concept is probably going to be the Christmas lights. Um, that's more of a seasonal thing, but there's a lot of fun things you can do there. And then we'll see. It's a journey. And I tell my team all the time, stay ready, never got to get ready. And what a tragedy it would be if you've been waiting for a moment and the moment crosses your face and it finds you unprepared. Um, and
Sure.
so, my team needs to know that what we have now, it might not look that way in 18 months. And if you want to be a part of this team, you have to be able to go above and beyond. And there's a lot of stuff going on about quiet quitting and, people wanting to give,
Mm-hmm.
just come, clock in, clock out. And that's totally fine. I get it. I want to create a culture where people can live a life and get a check too. And that's
Mm-hmm.
fine. It's just the longevity of that is questionable.
Sure.
And the longevity in any organization, especially ours, if you're here for a short time period, I'm going to love you. And my goal is to make sure that you're in a better place when you leave than when you came in. I
Mm-hmm.
recently we've had a lot of turnover this year. A lot of it was because we tightened up the culture and the bar permission to play, another Pat Lencioni concept,
Mm-hmm.
that permission to play bar, we had to raise it up. And a
Sure.
lot of the team didn't make the cut. But from the top end, we had a bunch of other people that these guys came in making $10, $12 an hour. They turned around this year and Calvin, they got jobs where they're making dang near as much money as I am, 60,
Sure.
70, plus
Yeah.
getting jobs for, other organizations because they've developed a skill set and a confidence in themselves
Sure.
where they can add value for somebody else. And then if they were to come back, they can come back at a much higher level than what they currently were doing. And so both of those turnover concepts are extremely encouraging because we're tightening up our culture, but at the same time, it's a proof of concept that the people who are coming through our system are growing and learning, and the ones that buy in, they're getting to a better place and they are getting better. And that's really what we're all about.
That's awesome. Matthew, I'm sure you heard this before, but you're wise beyond your years, man. That's some great input for sure. Last two questions for you, and then we'll let you go, Matthew. Um, Tell us, you obviously you're young, you've got a ton of things going on, you're growing a lot and developing professionally. You've got, a young daughter, two young boys, a wife, and hopefully a personal life as well. How do you balance those things? Like what's going well, what's not going well on that side of your life as a entrepreneur and franchise owner? And then
Wow.
what's the thing, are you reading a book right now? What's the thing you're doing for personal development right now that you want to share? So leave us with those two
Wow.
items.
Oh, that's good, man. Good. Um, so something that has been tough, um, personally, you know, living the life of an entrepreneur, people don't get it and they never will.
Sure.
And you hear about it being lonely and it's just true. People don't understand because how could they? They most of America, they have a job that gives them security. They have benefits. They have, you know, they get that paycheck. They get to clock in, they clock out, they get PTO, and
Hmm.
they get it. Building something, we built something from scratch. We built up franchise brands and locations, and um, it's hard, man. And being with having a spouse, it's important to make sure that the communication piece is always there. Um, my wife does not always um, appreciate the time and energy that what I feel is necessary to grow the business and provide and to build a legacy and all these concepts that we tell ourselves of what we're doing as
Hmm.
entrepreneurs and business owners. Like, hey, I'm providing for the family. I'm doing
Sure.
all this stuff. But at the end of the day, I would challenge everyone out there to be honest with themselves. And I'm looking at myself in the video because I'm talking to
Sure.
myself too. And you got to challenge yourself and acknowledge that sure, you're providing for your family, but at the end of the day, you chose this life,
Hmm.
and a lot of it is for you. And
Sure.
a lot of us are selfish in what we're doing, and we love this, and that's why we do it. It's hard, it's lonely, but we love it.
Hmm.
And there's always going to be a balance, and there's always going to be ambition. And something that I'm really wrestling with now: what is the cost of my ambition? And there's so much that I want. There's so much that I want. I said from the beginning, I always resonated with Aladdin, and I got myself the princess, right?
Sure.
And am I going to lose it because I'm reaching too far? Um,
Hmm.
do I get too close to the sun that I get burnt? Um, if I'm not as successful as I desire to be, am I okay if I have a good relationship with my kids and my wife? If I have to sacrifice a little bit, because either way, you always have time to do what is important and what you prioritize. If
Hmm.
I prioritize time with my kids, then I have time.
Yep.
When I say that I don't have time, it's because I'm prioritizing something else. I was just in a peer group, and one of the first exercises they had us do was write out your ideal day. It was a CEO peer group. And, we're writing it out. And I don't know why I had to go first, but he turns to me and says, all right, Matthew, what's your ideal day? I was like, man, my ideal day is I get up about 5 o'clock. I go do my run. I go do my workout. And, then I come back, I shower, I read, I listen to something, a little devotional, and I get to have breakfast with my family. Because right now, I can't have breakfast with my family. But then after that, and he said, whoa, 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 whoa. Now, usually wouldn't interrupt people. And this is my first time in this group. So I'm thinking like, oh man, come on now. I thought there were no wrong answers here. He said,
Sure.
I usually don't interrupt people, but you hit us on a very teachable moment. The concept I can't doesn't really exist because we could do anything.
Hmm.
We're these ambitious, highly capable, highly skilled people, and we're entrepreneurs. We believe that, and CEOs, we believe we could do anything. You don't do it, not because you can't, but because you won't.
Hmm.
And man, that hit me like the man
Sure.
slammed me with a ton of bricks, man.
Yeah.
Shocked me to my core. And because it's true.
Yeah.
And I need to work on that, and I need to find a balance. And it's important for those of you who are out there that, maybe you're single, maybe you don't have the spouse yet, finding somebody that can resonate with you on that level is super important if you're going to be successful. And for those of you who already have, a significant other, and maybe they struggle, and maybe, the time and the energy that it takes, you're going to have to balance. If that relationship is important to you,
Mm-hmm.
then you got to find balance there. Um, that's something that's been, a trend. It's turning up a lot lately. I'm having a lot of we'll
Mm-hmm.
call it conversations with my wife,
Sure.
and we're working through it though.
Yeah.
Because the relationship is important, our family's important. Love is a choice. It's a decision. You wake up and you make that choice every day. Just like I wake up and I make the decision to trust the technicians that I put on the road. I trust my operations manager to hold it down when I'm not there, because as an owner, nobody's going to want it as much as you do. Nobody's going to
Right.
provide the service as much as you do. But it's spreading yourself thin and trying to do everything where I can give a C effort on all fronts. But if I can find somebody that can give a B plus, A minus effort, where sure, they're not as good as me on the phone, but if I can get somebody that's consistently a B plus, A minus, that's definitely better than me trying to do all of it and then starting dropping balls because I'm juggling everything,
Sure.
and that just goes back to the balance and the trust, and you got to have communication with the spouse and have good priorities.
Absolutely.
Um, that was a lot of wind behind that
That's
answer,
good.
man.
That's good, Matthew.
Um,
No, it's great. It's something we all struggle with. And as someone who's on the other end where my kids are all 19, 20, and 23 now, what I'll
okay.
tell you is, your career and the business and the opportunities, they never go away, right? They're always there.
Mm,
But your kids are, the time that you have with them at home and the time with your spouse is finite, right? And
man.
that does go away. And so, the thing that I learned, Matthew, and I see all the books you have behind you is, I spent so many years reading books and investing time, energy, effort, blood, sweat, and tears, money, and learning how to be a better entrepreneur because it was important to me. And what I found is that a lot of times I hid in that and made excuses for my time
Mm,
in that because I could tangibly see myself getting better in the results. And
wow.
but the same tools are out there to be a great father and a great husband and things like that. And as leaders in our business and our family, we've got to figure out how to invest in both, right? So
Wow. No, that's
some,
good, man.
something to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Last thing, Matthew, what are you reading right now? What are you listening to? Podcasts, audiobooks? What are you spending your time on for self development?
Yeah. So, I go, I did check out this podcast a couple episodes before I got on. I got to go and do a deep dive. I love learning about franchising from top to bottom. I mean, give me anything about franchising, and I want to fully dive in. Um, I started this thing, and Mosquito Joe, I'm a pest control guy, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't resonate with that. Like I didn't grow up thinking I was going to just kill bugs all day, every
Sure.
day. But what I realized recently is I've got this skill set that I'm gaining in franchising.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't just have to be all about mosquitoes. And I love Mosquito Joe. It's a great brand. It's a lot of demand, and we're out here. I mean, we're buzzing, pun intended. But
Sure.
man, there's so much opportunity, and franchising is so special. So, Franchise Secrets is another podcast. Franchise Empires is a great one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on Audible uh, all the time. I just finished
Sure.
Relentless by Tim Grover.
Yeah.
Um, oh man, what am I on now? Think and Grow Rich is
Mm-hmm.
is a good one. I do. Like I said earlier, the peer groups, the networking, and Chaz Wilson is the CEO of Master Networks. It's a networking group, big in DFW in Texas, but quickly expanding.
Sure.
At the Connect session that we had last April, he said he made everybody raise their hand. How many of you read 10 books last year? Everybody. What about 20 books? Oh, yeah, me. What about 50 books? And, he had a few people still raising their hand. He was
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm going to challenge every single one of you. Instead of being proud about reading 50 books, how about you go read 5 books 10 times and master them? And
That's a good one.
again, another punch in the chest, man.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I've done I do a lot of reading. I
Mm-hmm.
I didn't come up with this education. I mean, everything has been molded by my experience, by the books that I've read and the people that I've been around in the rooms that I've gotten to sit in. So, I mean, books and learning. I mean, I can go through Michael Michalowicz, and he's basically like my mentor.
Sure.
Robert Greene. I am a student of Robert Greene. Michael Gerber. You know, I've probably read E Myth, or at least listened to it and wrote it at least 3 times just
Yeah.
this year, just kind of going back.
Sure.
Right now, the one that I've got is Richest Man in Babylon.
No, it's a
That's
classic.
one that
Yeah.
I might have read. I touched on that one years ago, and then just kind of it got dusty.
Yeah.
And picking it back up, it's good, man. There's just something special about books, about people's knowledge that I can just tap into and
Sure.
absorb it. And and you talk to entrepreneurs and business owners, and I feel like that's like a common theme amongst us, and
Hmm.
so it's not a surprise. But what I am surprised about is the number of people that just in my circle that aren't business owners, but they talk about wanting to get better, and they talk about, oh, I want more money. I want multiple sources of income. I want this, that, and the other, but they're completely unwilling to put
Sure.
in that work,
Hmm.
from a mind set, from a spirit, and from a body perspective. You know, the thing that I do self development other than reading and listening. I started running about
Yeah.
3 years ago, and I was never a long distance guy. I was a
Sure.
sprinter, quick twitch, all that. But I started in 2019, and I couldn't run 2 miles, man, without
Sure.
stopping. But I've done a couple half marathons now.
That's
I'm
awesome.
big into Spartan races, and High
Yeah.
Rocks is a big one. Shout out. We got High Rocks Dallas in actually 2 days.
Okay.
Um,
Awesome.
that one will kick your butt. I recommend you look it up.
Sure.
But yeah, man, fitness, learning is just a constant, and then just being around positive people. Um, I mean, I think Thomas Tremendous Jones and Life's Tremendous said you'll be the same person you are in the next 10 years outside of the books you read, the people you know, and the places you go. And then, there's the common theme of you're the accumulation of the 5 people that you hang out with the most. So
Sure.
if you're the smartest one, man, you're struggling. So go find yourself a circle where you're not. Uh,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and that's been pivotal for me in the last 18 months, no doubt.
Sure. Matthew, you're a breadth of knowledge, man. It's been awesome hearing your story and hearing you talk, and extremely valuable, and love your passion and what you're doing, man. And excited to hopefully talk to you again in 12 months and hear about all the things that you've accomplished in that time.